From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your evening update.
Dennis's Heating and Air Conditioning is Northern California's premier heating and air conditioning contractor. From residential housing, large commercial projects, installation to repair, sheet metal fabrication, and everything in between, we are your go-to heating and air conditioning specialist.
Well, we take a look at the fire, and this is looking at the Wonder Fire. The winds were coming from the north this morning. Then there was a shift later this afternoon, winds blowing from the south, blowing that smoke northward. So you can clearly see that shift in the wind pattern here based off of this PG&E camera. So kind of interesting to see that wind shift. And I think eventually by tonight and into tomorrow morning, we're going to see that shift back, making its way south, where that smoke will probably come back into the valley. But, you know, the smoke didn't really get too bad. I'm going to get this out of the shot here, and we're going to take a look at the fire tracker. Now, this is really a great tool that we have here. Now, I want you to remember when you're looking at this, this is not exact, but this is a general idea of the hot spot that the fire has created, and this is coming in from thousands of miles from space, looking at that heat spot. So again, it's not going to be the exact placement of where the fire is, but it gives you a general idea, and it did make its way down to the water here. So that's basically looking at the latest coming in from the fire and its overall heat signature coming in from outer space. Now, the fire potential is something we look at here for your Wednesday, and you can see the areas in brown is where we do have the moderate risk, and we're also seeing improving conditions off to the west, Trinity County, western Siskiyou County, and of course not to mention little to no risk for the coast. But you know, bottom line is we're getting in that time of the year where anytime you have the yellow or the brown in there, it's just a situation where we really need to take extra caution. Now, coming in from the National Weather Service is a fire weather watch. Now, this is in effect for your Wednesday. So there you can see extreme eastern Modoc County and extreme eastern Lassen County. But really, honestly, as we saw yesterday, there was no red flag warning. There was no fire weather watch, but there was a fire that started outside of those watches and warnings. So we really are that time of the year. We need to use extra caution. Now, look at the outlook for today. There it is, elevated to the east, which is where the fire weather watch is. We go into tomorrow, not only elevated, but the extreme east is looking at critical. Now, this is where the reason this is the case here is because the winds will be strongest off to the north and to the east, and not to mention the humidity will be its lowest as well. So let's start off with the forecast winds, and you can see as we go into tomorrow morning, the winds, they die down, but as we go through the afternoon, they're going to shift back out of the south in about 15 to 20 mile an hour gusts. We're looking at the gusts here for the valley. Now, for the mountains, now we're seeing those gusts over 20, even 25 miles per hour. So gusts 25 to even upwards of 35 miles per hour through the day on Wednesday, which is the reason why there is that fire weather watch. Now, we take a look at the winds going into your Thursday, same situation. The winds will pick up in the afternoon. It looks like not quite as strong for your Thursday winds, but strong nonetheless. And really the same situation, the humidity. Tonight into tomorrow morning, the humidity levels will increase, but then they'll decrease again through the afternoon. We're down into the lower teens for the valley and in the mid-teens up to the north and to the east. Recovery overnight into Thursday morning, then Thursday afternoon. Once again, we have low humidity. Looks like not quite as low, but low nonetheless. When you're in those teens, 13% for Alturas and Susanville, about 18%. Now let's talk about the smoke. Of course, you've got the fire down over southwestern Oregon. You've got the Wonder Fire here. So when those winds shifted more from the south to north, it pushed that smoke plume northward. Now watch what happens as we go into tonight and tomorrow. You see how we see a shift. Now the winds are blowing from north to south, and we'll probably see a little bit of smoke making its way into parts of the north end of the valley, around the Redding area in particular. Now, I don't expect it to be really poor air quality. It'll probably be a haze, maybe smelling a bit of smoke. It really depends on the overall amount of smoke that we have from the Wonder Fire at this point. But then you'll notice that the fire in southwestern Oregon is blowing some smoke down into Del Norte and Humboldt counties, which will try to push its way eastward as we go into Wednesday afternoon. But notice, as we go into Wednesday afternoon, we're seeing those winds come from the south. It'll blow that smoke plume back out of the valley and then back up northward. All right, so here's the deal. Let's get into the forecast now, outside of the fire. we've got below normal highs through the weekend and maybe even into next week. And I think many of us, including Redding and Red Bluff, will struggle to reach 100 degrees over the next 7 days or so. And looking down the line here, I'm not seeing any major heat waves at this point. Nothing at least where I feel confident that I can say it's going to happen. There is one long-range forecast model 2 weeks out, more than that actually, where it brings in a pretty sizable heat wave. We'll have to wait and see. I don't want to get you too excited about that just yet, but certainly something that I'm watching here very closely. So there's that trend for Redding, struggling to reach 100 degrees, if at all, through the weekend. Then we see a slight uptick for next week, but nothing major. Again, that wording I was talking about, no major heat waves anytime soon. Now tonight, fairly mild, dropping down into the upper 60s to low 70s for the valley. Temperature is about 100 degrees, upper 90s to about 100. For Siskiyou, Modoc County, about 90. And for the eastern mountains, in the low 90s. So again, nothing too terribly unusual for this time of the year. Now the monsoon moisture is another thing that I'm tracking here. It's down to our south. Area of high pressure, that's the typical high that you have over what's called the Four Corners High. It taps into that monsoon moisture, and you see those showers and thunderstorms develop because of that monsoon. Now sometimes that monsoon moisture works its way up into our region, and some of the long-range forecast models are indicating that sometime next week, say around next Wednesday, next Thursday, we could be looking at the potential for some of that monsoon moisture moving in. Now, as of right now, it's not even picking up in any thunderstorms, but when we start to see that monsoon moisture move in, we have to look at that potential. But this could be more of the high-based monsoon that we saw a few days ago, making it feel more muggy outside, but not enough moisture to really help produce any thunderstorms in the area. But something worth watching, and again, that's a ways out. A lot can happen between now and then. Temperatures, as I mentioned, mainly in the upper 60s to low 70s for the valley tonight, 40s and 50s for the higher elevations. And for tomorrow, for your Wednesday, temperatures in the mid to upper 90s. Redding, you could touch 100. Red Bluff, you might touch 100 degrees as well for your Wednesday. But for Chico, Oroville, Willows, probably somewhere in the mid, maybe some upper 90s. And for the higher elevations, we're in the mid to upper 80s to even some low 90s in there as well. Here's a look at your 7-day forecast. We start off with Mount Shasta. There you can see those temperatures, upper 80s, low 90s. And looks like that's going to be the case for Alturas. And for Susanville, probably somewhere in the low 90s over the next 7 days. And for the valley, let's take a look at that 7-day forecast. About 100 degrees for Redding. Now look at that. By Thursday, Friday, Saturday, even Sunday, we're not in the triple digits. We're in the mid to upper 90s. And then back in the triple digits by Monday, Tuesday. But look at Chico. Chico is going to dodge 100 degrees for the next 7 days. And Red Bluff may do that as well, although again, we could possibly touch 100 degrees Wednesday and then possibly again next Tuesday.